had workplace abuse happen when I was going through a miscarriage, and then when I was pregnant, and then on the other side of my pregnancy. So my daughter is 2. So this has been a 2-year process of being able to hopefully get this bill introduced in the state of Michigan.
As co-bill director for the Michigan chapter of EWA, Amanda Treppa helped organize the state's first pep rally to raise awareness about workplace abuse.
We do not actually have any legislation that holds employers accountable in a way to push back against actual bullying in the workplace.
When the first state signs the WPSA, we believe other states across the country will follow, and we eagerly await to see who will have the courage to introduce the bill.
However, we've had some pushback because people think people are going to get lawsuit happy, but really people want to work. They just want to work healthily, and that way if we have these protections in place, everyone feels held accountable and has structure in place to help.
I continue my conversation with Amanda as all state chapters search for a sponsor. I see your shirt that you have on, the End Workplace Abuse shirt. Yes. And it looks so lovely on you. You look lovely.
Thank you.
How did you get connected? You're welcome. How did you get connected to End Workplace Abuse? Because, we could talk about the trauma and it is important for us to talk about it. But at the end of the day, I tell people, this is all about solutions. This is all about change. This is how do we give back and use our experiences to make a change so that we make it better for other people. How did you get involved with EWA?
It was a deep dive of the lovely interwebs. I was sitting around truly, and my adoptive father, who passed away when I was 18, he always would say, though, like, you can be upset and have coulda, woulda, shouldas, but what are you going to do about it? And so I sat there and I was like, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do? And I realized, because everyone kept saying, you need a lawyer, a lawyer, a lawyer. I'm like, the law. There's something with the law, because everything I'm seeing is really hard case to prosecute. Like, I had actually a pretty good case, but I was not in any shape to honestly go through it at the time. But I was like, yeah. And I was like, but something has to change the law. And then I did a deep dive, and then came up Vicki and Deb's amazing work and the Workplace Psychological Safety Act. And I said, now that's something. So I reached out to them just via email saying, what is this bill? This is what I've gone through. This is what I'm seeking to help with, because we need law that can actually support people. And they were like, you're our kind of person. If you can organize, if you can understand, and you want to maybe lead, we have availability. I had moved from Connecticut, from where my workplace abuse had happened, to Michigan. And I was like, you know what? I have high connections in both. I'm going to take on both. I'm just going to see where it goes. And if I can just put a little something together. And what I have found is we are building momentum very quickly, especially here in Michigan. That is a completely blue state, from top to bottom, Senate, House, and governor. Like the entire state is very pro-labor and pro high quality protections, as is Connecticut, has really great protections for their workers and employees. So both states are really trying to make a push this year. And I'm just so honored and happy to be a part of it, in conjunction with this great fitness organization called City Sweat Club that was started by a dear friend of mine, Gabrielle Wilson. And it was founded by her on the back of her workplace abuse experience, where she just decided to slowly step away from it and do her own thing. She said, I've had it with multiple fitness companies, and I just need to do something for the community. And it has exploded. The City Sweat Club has really become a juggernaut that went from a run that happened once a week at the Nike store downtown Detroit to multiple events throughout the week, book drives for back to school, just true things helping the community.
I love how, the experiences and even the challenges and the tragedies, if you will, because I consider this to have been a tragedy in my life, but how it somehow we're able to use it for good. We're able to turn it around and use it for good. And the fact that you are really aligned with someone who's also been through that experience. And, here you are in Michigan. And as you mentioned, it is very much a blue state. And I don't want to talk about politics in the sense of, Republican and Democrat, but the reality of it is the Democratic Party has been more open to making sure that there's equity within our lives in every aspect. And that's just the bottom line. That's the bottom line. That's the truth.
If there's a Republican that's open to it too, we're reaching out to everyone. It really is not a partisan issue.
This is humanity.
Correct. Human rights, basic rights in the workplace, such as this, and feeling safe, it knows no party. Like this is really something that we hope to obviously have, as you know, like federal level and protections, because everyone deserves it. Everyone deserves to be able to feel safe when they step into a building, not feeling sick to their stomach or scared or feeling like they have to call out in order to regain where they've been for the last who knows weeks or months they've been put through it in their offices.
Have you had a chance to talk with Governor Whitmer yet? Because I know she seems to be that kind of woman who would be open to this. And I see you smiling. Is that a yes?
No, it's not, not a yes
Oh,
yet.
not yet.
Not
It's
yet.
coming.
It's a very hopeful smile as we're making this push and making a lot of really great connections. Uh,
Mhm.
we've had just a really overwhelming response, and we should have a
Ah,
sponsor, knock on wood, locked in October, November. So, like I
mm,
said, I'm hopeful soon to be able to have that kind of conversation. I
mm.
really appreciate how women in particular in this state have really taken on leadership roles and have opened the door to make someone like me feel really safe to come to them. Um, and really know that this is a place I can raise my hand and at least be taken seriously. And that's a really great thing and an advantage here.
My goodness. What has it been like? I mean, when you think about the folks who, you are who you're potentially going to be connected to, who will be sponsoring this bill. And I love the fact that you said this is not partisan. This is literally about human rights. This is about equality. And there was something that one of our Democratic legislators, hopeful for the House District 24 in Indiana, he said, equality hurts no one. It hurts no one. Everybody wins. Everyone wins. Everyone wins. So we're doing this even for, when I think about this, from the irony of it all, we're doing this even for the children, future generations of the bullies who exacted their unconscionable behavior upon us in the workplace. Their children will benefit from this as well.
Absolutely. And I listened to him and I'm rooting for him. I was listening to your interview with him recently, and that I thought that was just really well put. It really doesn't hurt anyone. And it's about legacy. What do you want your legacy to be is what I often put in front of people. When they come to me with, I don't know if I should leave this workplace, this and that. And I'm like, what do you want your legacy to be? Not only workplace wise, but in life. Take a moment and write that down. Let that
Yeah.
guide you. And for me, I'm like, my legacy is I want this to be a broken cycle. I want it to be a fresh start for everyone. I want this to be done in the workplace. And my child, if I have grandchildren one day, whoever it is, they should feel that they have that opportunity. This is the real opportunity that I feel like people are trying to speak on in this election cycle. Like these are the opportunities. These are people are looking for specifics. Well, here's a specific right here. This is what you should be looking to do.
Can I say this? We don't have a concept of a plan. We actually have a plan.
That part. As somebody who always comes correct and prepared myself,
Mhm.
I expect that of everyone else as well. So
Yeah.
when I
Uh-huh.
come into these meetings, I've been also very appreciative that it's acknowledged by anyone who I've had these meetings with and been explaining the bill, and they appreciate it as well, because then they can come up and go, I don't have a concept. They really gave it to us. Let's
Give it to
let's
us.
see what
They
we
have
can
to.
do. We need something to work with. And
Yeah.
when the people I've been able to connect with, and the political world has now opened to me through this work extensively, because I do believe that I'm a woman of faith, and I believe I've been given some gifts. That the whole point when you're given gifts is to again give back. That I've been privileged enough to be around and learn from in the recent year. I just keep hoping to build on that momentum for myself and to keep this work. And no matter what, one way or another, this bill is getting introduced in Michigan.
Amen, sister. We say the same thing about Indiana. With Michigan, how are you doing Michigan and Connecticut together? Because I mean, not necessarily close, kind of sort of, but not really. I mean, East Coast and Midwest. How are you making that happen?
Making it happen through a lot of really great connections I've had since
Mhm.
actually childhood. So my adoptive family, my adoptive mother is from Jersey. So I spent a lot of my life being out on the East Coast as a whole. Lived in New York City for about a decade before moving out to Connecticut. So I have a really nice network set in there. I am hoping that we have a co-lead soon. I would really like to split that with someone who is there full time, ideally, because Michigan is a very large state. It's a
Oh,
very
yeah.
large state. So I'm making it work for now, but I believe as momentum's picking up, putting it out there to anyone listening, you are interested in helping and supporting in Connecticut, please reach out. But it's going all right for now, but I can tell that based on the workload that is now beautifully set in front in Michigan, I'm going to be dedicating a little bit more time here, both with this work and other political work that I'm interested in doing and pursuing.
I love it. What do you think about, people ask all the time, well, why did you drop your federal lawsuit? And it's very simple. People think that it's always about money. And I know that the justice system is set up that is the remedy for when you have been harmed. It's been the remedy for decades. It likely will never change. That is the remedy. That is what we call justice, where you take somebody to court, the facts are introduced, a jury says yes or no, you know, there's some kind of adjudication in some form that is supposed to be justice. However, I remember saying when all of this happened to me, that justice is really defined by the person who seeks it. What looks like justice to you may be something different for me. And for me as a journalist, it was more important for the story to be told. I've had people for years ask me, what's the biggest story of your career? And I would say something, and it was always different. But now when people ask me that, I say it's my story. And it's my story because it's going to be used to further a cause, to champion a cause that is necessary, not just now, but now and forever. And so when I was going through my situation, and I realized that the federal laws are not set up to really address this issue as much as people think it is. That they're just file a discrimination lawsuit. It's racism, it's discrimination, it's sexism, it's ageism, it's disabilities. And
Right.
yet, if you can't prove intent, it's almost nearly impossible to find so-called judicial justice. So for me, my justice is talking about it. My justice is speaking about this. My justice is fighting the injustices of workplace abuse so that we can change laws. I've always said recently that if we can change the 1964 Civil Rights Act, if we can
Mm,
amend it, if we can really make it a law that has teeth, why we can't, we should be able to. Because right now it's just performative. And so
correct.
many people are going through this and they believe, oh, well, I'll just file a lawsuit and all is going to be well and I'll be able to walk away. And I tell people all the time who call and ask for help from me, and I'm like, well, just think about what you're doing because it's financially exhaustive. It is emotionally exhaustive, but be clear about what your end goal is. Because if your end goal is to somehow tell the truth, for it to come out, for people to understand and know more about this, going that route likely will not net you that reward or that end goal. And so, what is your advice to someone who has come to you or might come to you in the future and say, well, Amanda, what should I do? What did you do? How would you what would your conversation be like with them? What would your advice be?
This has happened frequently over the last 2 years. I have many people who reach out, slide in my DMs and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. What is your
Mhm.
opinion? What's your take? And also from now I have that HR background that I can really also delve in and say, when you're already approaching it, chances are HR's already done their own analysis of how
Yeah.
much of a threat you are, how much it's going to
Mhm.
cost the company. My advice is to list out, because this worked really well for me. Through the grieving process. List out what your number one goal would be out of just anger. Then list out what the next year goal would be. What do you want from there? The next one and the next one for 5 years. So 5 things you would want. Number one, my superficial one was I wanted that supervisor fired. That's all I wanted. Because I was like, that's not fair. This person doesn't get to put me through heck and hell and high water and get to stay there.
Mhm.
And then I was like,
Mhm.
okay, but like what comes after, Amanda? What comes after that one moment?
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, well, then I'm going to make more money or I'm going to go work for the competition. But again, surface level. So after the first list, I threw it out. And then I was like, okay, so what do I actually want? So
Now
really
what? Yeah.
dig deep because you're going to want to stay on that surface level because anger is really just hurt and pain. That's all that is. That is a surface level reaction. So dig deep.
It's a real emotion that I think all of
Yeah.
us to we have to allow it to not just fester, but then to work through it to get to the other side. And I think so many of us have been so silenced due to not saying anything, and to, especially as women, you're not supposed to be an angry woman, or a nasty woman. You can't tell us how you really feel. And I remember my therapist saying, no, 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 you need to feel all the feels so that you can get through to the other.
Justifiable. And it's justifiable anger at that,
Absolutely.
but
Hmm.
it's figuring out and taking a moment to ground yourself the best you can at the time. And nothing has to be perfect. Never give yourself all the grace in the world. There's no need for perfection, and allow things to evolve, because that wanting that person fired, really not the biggest deal. Still don't know why they have a job or how, but but it's none of my business at this
Yeah.
point,
Right.
truthfully, because I got
Yeah.
to a point where I was like, I want to come back and buy the block, as we would say. Like,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
But I'm like, ooh, but that's still thinking a little too small.
Yeah.
Instead of buying the
Mm.
black, ooh,
Some
what
people
if
will
we,
say, "Oh, that's being petty." Some people say, "That's a little petty, petty Betty."
I
What?
was like, that's also not giving myself enough credit, because as you
Yeah.
start to heal and I'll give yourself time with it.
Mhm.
If you do choose to leave, um, again, figure out what you want first. Do you want money? Because then you can come back to me and I can give you tools on how to document, right? And how we can
Mhm.
hopefully set you up with the right lawyer and make sure you're okay. But if you know you're on your way out the door, start your own succession plan, what you want in your life, because
Mhm.
that's the only way you're going to work through it and come out the other side and be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And it has taken me almost, like I said, next month is 2 years. It has been the most amazing 2 years of my entire life, truthfully.
I know.
Like,
I
and I
say the same thing.
it's the best 2 years I've ever had. And you know why? Because I burnt it all to the ground and said, I'm going to
Yes, and
start
start
over
over.
and do it my way. But not everyone's
Mm,
here. Again, not everyone's here and can do that. And not everyone has hit this point where I have
mm,
nothing to lose. I truly don't. A job is a job. I have my daughter. I have a beautiful roof over my head. I will find
mhm,
another job. I have
mm,
really great brains and gifts that I was lucky enough to be given. And you have to find a way to heal, to tap into
mhm,
trusting yourself that much and that hard, and reaching
mm.
out to like the end workplace abuse. What a community.
You're gonna find the support and the strength, and there's so much beauty in that. And I love the fact that, yeah, we're telling our stories, and we're bonded, unfortunately, from the trauma, but
Right.
what a gift we're giving to one another, because I believe, I know for Indiana chapter, we are very, very intentional that the way that we speak to one another, how we interact, that we do not treat each other the way that we were treated in the workplace. And I love that we're being very intentional about it. We are talking about it. And it's been so healing. It's been so, so healing. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that for you, as someone who's in HR, that you're not afraid to say, I want to support and help people within our organization. Here you are on the inside, and you are making a change from the inside. Do you see yourself in a position, and maybe you've already had this idea, or maybe I'm giving it to you, which is great too. The idea, the notion of someone who's in the HR industry to speak to the HR industry, to speak to these people in these conferences and conventions, and to say, we must make a change, and to let these company heads understand you will be more productive. This is better for business. You're in the business to make money. If you do this, if you accept the Workplace Psychological Safety Act as the gold standard, the only standard and value, not the only value, but the only standard that we're going to go by when it comes to making sure that we're holding people accountable, your productivity of your employees will skyrocket, because when people feel safe, they give more, they do more, and they are loyal. It's really that simple. And for businesses, you're in it to make money. Pass this law. Help us pass this law, because now you're going to be making more money because your employees are happier. What are
Exactly.
you going to be doing in that vein to try to change the perception of what psychologically unsafe workplaces, that it can be something that we can talk about, that we can have these uncomfortable conversations, but also let's make a change, and let's be change agents. How do you think you're going to do that?
I've been very, very humbled to be able to start booking to speak at some conventions that I'll be able to say soon in 2025,
I love
which is going to be great. But one of the things I'm specifically speaking on is how everyone keeps saying no one wants to work. And what I'm trying to address with that in the HR space is no one wants to work, or this or this or that, or it's a Gen Z thing, or now the millennials are following Gen Z. it's really addressing, it's not that people don't want to work. They want to work healthily and they want to work well. That's it.
That's it.
That's all it
That's it.
is. And in order to do that, these are the safeguards people actually want in place and breaking it down. And then they do need to see the numbers because it's business at the end of the day, and really
Right.
showing how that demonstrates and really feeds all the way through, because people take seriously those TikTok reviews. You may say that's so unprofessional, and professionalism is such a patriarchal, outdated white supremacist construct that nobody needs to really be saying that anymore. But anyone who is Gen Z or millennials are watching these TikToks going, oh, that's how terrible they treated someone. I'm not applying. They're like, no one's applying. Why would I apply to you? Why would I apply to you? And they're like, well, that was unprofessional of them. Well, I'm so thankful they did that. Really starting to get away from these whole, this is how you should behave. No, 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 no. You need to allow people to flourish in who they are, provide a structure for sure, but then allow some free form within it, because the best organizations, companies, shows, sports teams, that is how they thrive. You look at dynasties. On dynasties, I love going to sports because I like to look at cultures. I love looking at the Detroit Lions here.
In our third and final part, Amanda tells us how she thrives after workplace abuse and tips to help you through your healing journey. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.